I'm Nancy Ungerman, and I'm going to do an interview with Zelda today, Zelda Siegel, and it is December 15th, and I'm at I'm at the JCC. Hello.
Hello, Nancy.
I'm so happy you're here.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
I want to start from before the beginning. Were your parents born in the United States?
No.
And tell me about where they were born.
My mother was a privileged child
Mm-hmm.
from Warsaw. Her father was a merchant,
Mm-hmm.
and she grew up with her own nanny
Mm-hmm.
and going to such cultural events as the opera.
Mm-hmm.
And her life was like that until, I'm not quite sure what happened, but then there was I don't forgotten what the word.
Pogrom?
No, when they won't buy from the merchant.
No, the Nuremberg laws. No.
I don't
Okay.
think so. But anyway, so at that point, she didn't have that privileged upbringing anymore. My father was born right out of Warsaw, and he came here as a very young man, came through Galveston during that very short window
Mm-hmm.
of when they allowed the people from Eastern Europe to come into the United States.
Mm-hmm.
He had been promised a job in San Antonio, and so he immediately went to San Antonio and was put with the Charlotte family. They were German Jews. They took him in. He lived with them. He worked at their stores. Subsequently bought one of the stores that they had, which was a jewelry store, and went back, got my mother, who was not his family, but in the family, and he brought her here. She had a honeymoon across the ocean on the George Washington ship. That's the story. My brother and my brother is David Sikora, and we were both born in San Antonio after that, of course.
So this was in the 40s, actually.
It was in the 20s.
In the 20s.
I'd like to say it was in
Oh.
the 40s, but
Okay.
it was in the 20s. And
Uh-huh.
my father actually came here, I think about 1910.
But already knew your mother.
He knew her, she was 12 years younger.
Uh-huh.
And so he knew her, and he had gone back several times to see his family
Mhm.
and saw her during those intervals. And so then he went back and got her to marry him.
Or got him to marry her.
I'm sorry, what?
Or got him to marry her.
Yes, right.
So your childhood was in San Antonio?
In San Antonio,
Uh-huh.
yes. I lived there. I went away to school when I was 16, and really never went back home because I married Jack Hirsch Siegel, whose home was Dallas, Texas. And after our wedding, I came here with him and have lived here ever since.
And what's the date on that?
On the marriage,
Yeah.
I have to go back a
Okay,
while.
it's okay.
All right, January 13th,
Uh-huh.
1946.
Mhm.
A long time ago.
Yeah, a long time ago. What was it like growing up Jewish in San Antonio? Were you in a Jewish community? Did you go to temple? Were you, those days? you
Growing
weren't
up
bat
in,
mitzvah.
growing up in San Antonio, we actually lived on the other side of town from where most of the Jews lived. So I went to elementary school, junior high, senior high, with maybe 2 or 3 other Jewish children.
Mhm.
So we were, that part of my life was not like people from here who grew up in South Dallas.
Mhm.
And, but we did belong to the conservative congregation, which most people did at that time, Aguda Sachem in San Antonio, and we were very much a part of the community.
Mhm.
My father was active in several organizations, and my mother was too,
Mhm.
and so we knew we were Jewish. You know, there was no doubt about
Mhm.
that.
Mhm. Practicing Jews. You
We were-
went to temple.
Well, sort of. You know, we were not traditional in the true sense of the word,
Mhm.
but, you know, we did celebrate Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur.
Mhm. I hope Hanukkah.
You know, no, not very much was made of Hanukkah at that time.
Yeah.
I think occasionally we would light a menorah, and I still have my menorah from when I was a child.
Did you ever meet with any anti-Semitism growing up?
Actually not. You know, I think the kids I went to school with
Mhm.
didn't know what it meant to be Jewish.
Mhm.
You know, I was just one of them.
Mhm. Mhm.
Now, I'm sure there must have been, but not for me. And I think boys growing up have more of that than girls do. I don't think girls do that to one another, but I think that boys might use some harsh words.
Mhm. Mhm. Well, it's great that you were free of all that.
Yes?
So your Jewish affiliations were temple, and your father was involved with Jewish organizations.
Yes.
I think you said. Yeah.
Yes.
Mm. After high school, did you go on to college? or
Yes,
did-
of course.
Uh-huh.
Education was very important to my father
Uh-huh.
and my mother.
Mhm.
And I keep saying my father because his father actually was a rabbi, and I think that they impressed on him the value of an education.
Mhm.
So yes, I went to the University of Texas
Mhm.
and Incarnate Word College in San Antonio, which is a Catholic college.
Mhm. Mhm. How did you meet your husband?
Oh, well, I was all of 16 years old,
Mhm.
and he had come to San Antonio to visit his sister, and he had brought a couple of other Aggies from A&M, and we actually met. I had a date with a man named Buddy Smith, and he had a date with someone else. But when we looked at each other, that was it. And I knew at the age of 16 that I had fallen in love.
Ah.
But I knew also that I was going away to school, and that, you know, I didn't want to get too serious.
Mhm. Mhm. But you kept up with each other.
Oh, absolutely. I went to the balls at A&M.
Mhm.
Yeah, spent weekends down there.
And then it happened. Do you have children? And
Yes.
what are their?
I do have children. I have 2 sons. I lost my daughter
Mm.
about 10 years ago to breast cancer. And I have grandchildren, one little great-grandson, and another one on the way.
Mm. Good for you.
Say
And
that
they-
again.
Good for you.
Good
And they
for
all.
me.
And they
Good for
all,
them.
Yeah. They all live in.
Can you
Town.
believe that? Except for one granddaughter who lives in California, we're all here.
Mhm.
My 2 sons who have their own families, and I've never lived anywhere else, you know, except San Antonio and Dallas.
Mhm. Mhm. The first people you met when you moved here, have you kept in touch with them? And
Well, I want to tell you that when I went to College Station, to A&M, for those balls that I spoke of, the freshman ball, junior ball, senior ball, I met Frances Goodman Goldman, who was not married at the time. We stayed lifelong friends until her death about, I guess, a year and a half ago.
Mhm.
And her family,
Mhm.
I've been friends with her family.
Mhm.
And through her, I met others. Yes, I would say that I have stayed friends with the people I met originally.
Mhm. Mhm. Tell me, what are your, what keeps you busy?
Well, for 40 years, more than 40 years, I was in real estate. And I would say perhaps 8 years ago, I decided that I had had enough. When I first started, I thought, well, I'll do this for 5 years. And the 5 years turned into 40. So, anyway, more than 40 actually. And so, right now, I am not doing any volunteer work, but I did. I was at Vickery Meadow Learning Center for more than 6 years, English as a second language, and that was something I really enjoyed. I never thought I wanted to be a teacher, but I will tell you that that was one of the highlights of my life. You too, Ruth? The people who are there because they want to be there, and they love you, and they appreciate you so much. It's amazing. And one of these days, I think I'll go back.
Yeah.
But right now, I'm not. I was very ill for about, well, more than a year. I had something called hypercalcemia, too much calcium in your body, and that calcium can go to your brain or your lungs or wherever.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, thank goodness I overcame it, and so I'm pretty much back to myself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Has Dallas changed in your eyes between the time that you came here and today? I mean, how has Dallas changed for you?
Absolutely, it has changed.
Mm-hmm.
Dallas was not a very, very small city when I came here, but it has grown not only in population and in the area, but also the cultural events are really good right now. You can enjoy them. You can enjoy theater, symphony, restaurants, good restaurants. We can take advantage of everything, and I try to.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be left behind in that kind of thing.
Big city.
Big city.
Mm-hmm.
It's not New York, but it's a big city.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If you're bored, you're wrong in this
That's
city.
true.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you don't have to be bored.
Mm-hmm.
There's always something to take advantage of.
What hasn't, I ask people, what has been your favorite decade, do you think?
My favorite decade?
Decade, yeah.
Well, that's a tough one. You know, I think that there's something we don't realize, excuse me, and that's when we're raising our children,
Mm-hmm.
when our children are all at home and they're young and we're young and we're busy with life. Your husband goes to work and you take care of your children, you do volunteer work. There's so much to keep busy about. I don't know what my favorite is, actually, but I think that's a very good time of life. And then when your children leave, you know, you have that freedom. And those times are good. This is not the best time, though I am happy and content. It's not the best time.
Because,
Well, first of all, life changes. You know, you have to expect that. Things don't stay the same. And my late husband has been gone quite some time. And my children, though devoted to me, have their own lives. I have my own life. And I am content. I'm okay with it.
mhm,
But I would not say that it's the best time.
mhm. I'm going to backtrack a little.
Okay.
Can you remember any stories about growing up in San Antonio? Any adventures or anything that was a landmark for you?
I think I had a very, I don't want to use the word average, but the kind of a childhood that most people do
Mhm,
as they're growing up.
mhm,
I went to school, I went to Sunday school, I had my friends, I took music lessons, I took dancing, you know, but I can't think of any of one event that maybe stands out from the others. I think I had a very, very nice childhood. I had parents who really cared. They took good care of us.
uh-huh.
And they were good parents. They provided for us in many wonderful ways. And I just can't think of anything that stands out
Yeah.
in my mind that would have been different
Mhm.
from most childhoods.
What, who are your role models?
Who are my what?
Who would you call your role models?
My role models?
Yes.
Okay, let me think about that. Well, I think anyone who has really made a mark in this world, I think in that respect, I have disappointed myself a little bit. I would have liked to have been a little bit more in the public eye. I don't think that I reached my full potential. I was watching Barbara Walters last night. Did y'all watch her?
No.
She interviewed, well, some people I didn't even know, but Oprah Winfrey, for example, who had a terrible, terrible childhood and overcame so much. And she's not one of my favorite people, but I have to admire her for what she is and what she has done. And I think that that she probably is a role model for many people.
Mhm.
And I would like to write. I don't write, but I'd like to write a book.
Mhm.
I took piano lessons for many years, and I was pretty good. I won some awards, but that's not something you want to do. If you're a true people person, you don't want to sit in a room and practice piano all day. So I gave that up. And
This was in San Antonio that you
yes,
did? Okay.
yes. Well, I even majored in it my first year at the University of Texas, and then decided it wasn't for me. But as far as role models, let's go back to that. I think Eleanor Roosevelt, Eleanor Roosevelt, could have been a role model for almost anyone. And I think maybe Anne, I've forgotten her middle name, Lindbergh. I think that she could be a role model. I think those women decided what they had to do, what they could do, and they went along with it.
Mhm.
And I don't think they let anything stop them. Well, for example, Oprah Winfrey said she didn't think she would have been a good mother. And actually, she said that she wouldn't have been able to accomplish what she did accomplish if she had had children.
Oh.
So I don't know if that's true or not. There are many women who have had families and their own careers and have done remarkably well. They're known all over, at least this country, or all over the world. I think maybe you can make do. You don't have to neglect your children. You can be there for them, but maybe you ought to pursue your own intellectual capacity, your own desires to do what you want to do. I think that makes us a more complete person.
What has what has Judaism played in your life today?
Today,
Mm-hmm.
well, I guess I belong to every organization in town,
Mm-hmm.
almost.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not, in the true sense of the word, a very traditional Jew. But I know that I am Jewish.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be anything else.
Mm-hmm.
I give to Jewish causes. I think that it's up to all of us who are Jews to do that, because nobody else is going to do it for us.
Mm-hmm.
And I try to give to civic causes, but in my heart, giving to Jewish causes is the main thing. I don't, I guess I never had a truly traditional home, like some people do. My mother didn't keep kosher. She didn't do any of the things that I know other people have done to maintain a more traditional home. But we did have Passover, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, some semblance of Hanukkah, very little, because one didn't at that time, as I
Mhm.
said before.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it doesn't really matter what religion you are, if you can be a truly good person.
The golden
And-
rule.
And probably if you listen to all the basics in your religion, Jewish or non-Jewish, I think that we would have a better world.
What advice would you give your grandchildren and your great-grandchildren? What's the best advice that you can give them from your life experiences or your observations, or what you did or what you didn't do? What advice?
I would say probably to be the best person you possibly can be, and that would cover a multitude of things. That would mean, be good to your fellow man and treat them well, and do your best in things. For example, when you're in school, try to make that good years, because it's so important to have a good education, a good education is the basis for your whole life. It keeps you interested in all sorts of things. And to me, that would be the best thing that I could possibly say to my grandchildren, my little great-grandson, who is now 2.5. And I hope that they will continue as their great-grandfather did, my father, my mother, their great-grandmother, and be really good people, interested in everything, voracious readers, interested in the community, doing everything that you can possibly do to live a good life.
Well, have I left anything out?
I don't know.
Is there anything you wish to add?
I don't know. No, I've pretty much covered everything.
Okay, well, you've done a great job today.
Thank you.
Thank you so much,
very
Zelda.
much.